Now, many of you watching might recognise the Big Five as some of the most powerful, majestic animals in the wild, but the name was originally used to describe those hardest to hunt on foot.
Yeah, with trophy hunters hitting the headlines in recent years, a photography project aims to challenge the perception of the word shooting and instead celebrate the animals through the lens of a camera. Let's have a look at some of the photos. They're wonderful photographs.
Yeah.
Graeme Green is one of the photographers behind this project, and he joins us now. Morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Graeme.
We'll come to the photos in a minute, but there were sort of these original Big Five, weren't there? And you've moved this on because it's important to you, isn't it?
Morning, Dan and Louise. Yes, it is important to me. I had this idea around 10 years ago when I was on assignment in Botswana, and I heard that word shooting for taking photos. And it seemed to me that shooting animals with a gun is really an outdated idea now. It's meaningless to most people. It's cruel to a lot of people. And this idea of celebrating animals through photography, it just seemed a much better idea. It's much more meaningful. It's much more powerful. So I started working on the idea about 2 years ago to set up this project. I should mention I'm not just one of the photographers behind it. I am the founder of the project. I created it.
OK, well, obviously means an awful lot to you as well. And talking about the importance of language, you picked up on the word shooting there. The term Big Five, because we mentioned it in the introduction there. Tell us about the story about how that term sort of originated.
Well, yeah, it was, I mean, horrific things happened in the past in Africa, as we know. And one of those things was that trophy hunters wiped out many of the animals that we love. So that's why that language matters. The term is still used a little bit for tourism in places like South Africa. But I've spoken to a lot of people over the years who really dislike the term. A safari camp owner actually called it a butcher's term. And he told me that he wouldn't let any of his staff use it. And a conservationist who spends her time protecting rhinos said that to use this term that has its roots in killing these animals, it's just something that she wants to see resigned to the past. And I feel the same way. It isn't an anti-trophy hunting campaign, but I just wanted to create something positive and to focus attention on wildlife using photography and using this sort of engaging idea to get people talking about the wildlife they love and thinking about some of the issues that those animals face.
I mean, we're just looking at some of the photos now. They are absolutely incredible. It's not everybody, I suppose, who can get access to these creatures and be able to take the photos in some ways, isn't it? But how do you get that? I mean, how do you get them to be so wonderful?
Well, photography does take time, and it takes patience, and it takes practice. And you're right, a lot of these places aren't easy to access. I mean, the job as a wildlife photographer, it has opened up these places to me that someone from my background wouldn't have had otherwise. I've been able to go to everywhere from Malaysia to Tanzania to, Peru photographing wildlife. It's an amazing way to see the world. It really is. Great photos basically take time. They take a lot of creativity, and you have to love animals. I think that's why this idea of the project came about, and also why so many big name photographers and conservationists got behind it, because it is about protecting what you love. Wildlife photographers spend their time photographing these animals, but I think everyone now is really aware that those animals are disappearing. So if you're just creating beautiful images, it's not enough anymore, because those animals are disappearing. And if we don't use the photography and use that message to get across to people that those animals are disappearing, animals like lions that people see in photos all the time are actually declining really, really fast. And so I think with photography now, we really need to get that message across rather than just, a beautiful image.
Do you think, you talked about how, the idea of trophy hunting is sort of changed a lot in recent years. Do you feel that the importance of conservation is far more in tune with sort of modern thinking?
How do you mean, sorry?
In the fact that people are particularly, far more interested in it than they maybe were in the past, and it's far more widespread, the importance of it, and protecting, some of the creatures that we've got behind us in the studio.
Yeah, and I think that's down to the work of conservationists, and I think in part that's down to the work of photographers. I think people do care more. A photographer called Jen Gooten, who's one of the photographers of the project, says, you can only protect what you love. And I think the way that people learn to love animals or start to love animals is through seeing them. So photography has a really important role to play. Most of the charities that I've worked with, and we've worked with everyone from Down Fossey to WWF to Polar Bears International, they all use photography to get their messages across. Because if you just put text out there, if you just put scientific information, it's really difficult to engage with people. But what we've seen, we run photo galleries on the New Big Five website, and people love them. And we put messages in there, we contain information in those, but people primarily love the photos. And a photo is a great communicator, and it's a great way to draw people into a story.
Yeah, I love the one behind you as well. Thank you very much, Graeme Green. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
That's it from breakfast this morning. Lovely to talk to you, Graeme. We're back tomorrow from 6.
We are. Right now it's time for Rip Off Britain Live.
Mental health, good to escape as well.
Oh, it's lovely to speak to you. Sarah Cox, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
So lovely to see you both. Bye.
See you later,
The next episode of Between the Covers will be on Monday evening, 7:30 on BBC Two, and you can catch up with the series so far on the iPlayer as well.
You're watching BBC Breakfast, I'm sure you know that. It is 8:59.